Our next presenter is Victor Chiarizia. He is the son of an Italian. Victor says that cheese making was in his blood as a result of this. Chiarizia is a glass blower by trade, but upon moving to Fairview, North Carolina, he was ready to start a second business. It didn't take long for him to figure out what it would be. This part of the magnificent Blue Ridge Mountains lacked an excellent source of aged raw milk cheeses. Eager to remedy the problem, he learned how to make them, studying at North Carolina State University, expanding his knowledge in Vermont, and conducting independent research. Always ambitious, he built a natural rock and concrete cheese cave on his property, exclusively for his new endeavor. It's been more than 10 years since this business opened, and his artisanal products are known throughout the mountains and beyond. Hailing from Connecticut, Victor's found mountain life agreeable. When not producing his sought-after, custom-designed glass sculptures, he focuses on other talents such as knife making, home building, and cooking. So welcome Victor to the podium where he's going to talk to us about one of his new passions, well, I guess not a new passion, but his other passion, cheese making.
Who wrote that? Who wrote that? It is? Oh, okay, all right. Somebody wrote that. That's very nice. Hey, everybody. I'm Victor Chiarizia. I've been a glass blower for 49 years. And this year's 14 years making cheese. And I left we had a tour group of 8 people come over just before I got here today. And they always want to know what's the connection between glass blowing and cheese making. And I always say that glass or cheese can be as industrial or as artistic as you want to be. And I chose the art, the more creative end of cheese making. And so, hey, 2010. Oh, what's that? Oh, okay. Anyways, I like this picture. I got my license back in April in 2010. And what I've got my hand on is the state of North Carolina pasteurizer loan program pasteurizer. So the state of North Carolina had to promote cheese making, they would lend you a pasteurizer for a year so you could pursue your trade. And after a year, they would come and take it back, and you supposedly knew how to make cheese then. But what happened was I was left without a pasteurizer, without any way of making cheese. So I, lacking of much funds to open up a cheese factory, it takes a little bit of money. But I've been an avid junkyarder and auction goer, so I managed to find a couple cheese kettles, actually steam kettles, which I converted into cheese making equipment, which the inspectors liked. So I got everything licensed by state of North Carolina. So that's my picture. Let me see here. Computer. Right arrow. Sorry. Okay, so what I wanted to do with cheese was emulate what was going on in Europe, France, and Italy, and classic cave-aged cheeses. That was going to be my thing. So what I did was I dug back a hillside on the side of my house, and I built this cave. It took me a couple of years to build it. I think I started it in 2008, and I got it inspected in 2010. I dug back until I hit bedrock, and then we put in 3 concrete walls. I kept the natural bedrock, and I put a corrugated steel roof, concrete, and then 7 feet of soil on top. That was the closest I could get to a natural cave. What happens when it rains? The rain comes down, comes through the back wall. The water flows down into the floor drains and then out. So we get a lot of native bacterias and cultures and flora going into the cave. So I'm kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature when it comes to making cheese. I knew that getting into it because that's what I wanted. I wanted to have that be as natural as possible. most people that get into making cheese, they build a really nice walk-in cooler. Everything's clean, air-conditioned, and sanitized and everything. So, but then they also do a lot of pasteurized cheeses and things like that. I prefer to make raw cheese. So we're kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature, or maybe we're kind of working hand in hand with Mother Nature to make it. So I make raw cheeses, cow's milk. I partnered up with my friends at Looking Glass Creamery out in Polk County, and they make cheese also. So they have, let's say, they have a 600-gallon pasteurizer. I have a 30-gallon pasteurizer. And my whole facility, I think I might have a picture. Let's see what else we got. Okay, here's one of my steam kettles, and this had 35 gallons of milk in it. I guess you guys want to know how to make cheese. Probably. All right, so what I do is I have a portable milk tank. I put it in the back of my van. Twice a week I drive down to the farm and get milk. I have a pump. I can pump out whatever gallons of milk from the storage tank that I need. I usually get 85 gallons on Mondays and Fridays. And my 2 steam kettles are 35 gallons and 50 gallons, so I can use the milk. You bring the milk up to about 90 degrees. At that point, you add a specific culture depending on what kind of cheese you want to make. A cheese culture for cheddar is different than a cheese culture for Parmesan and stuff like that. So we run through maybe 10 or 12 different types of culture we probably make 20, 22 different kinds of cheese maybe. You add the culture to the warm milk. You let it breed. You let it sit in there for usually about an hour. And what I do is I monitor the pH of the milk. So if today's milk, when I was doing a talk to my visitors, the milk starts out at roughly 6.7 pH scale. Put your culture in there, bacterial cultures. In about an hour, you're looking for a pH drop. I have everything's written down. So I looked at my sheet as I'm talking, and it went down to from 6.7 to about 6.5. At that point, you know that the culture's alive, and it's creating lactic acid, which is what you want. At that point, you can add rennet. The rennet will take the milk and coagulate it into a vat of, like custard. What you see here is the coagulated milk just cut, freshly cut. After a certain amount of time, you have to start to expel the whey from the curd. So Little Miss Muffet, curds and whey. This is the beginning of it. The curd's been cut, and you can see the whey, the yellowish, greenish yellow whey is starting to ooze out. What we'll do is we'll agitate it slowly, and depending on the type of cheese, we may warm it up a little bit, or we may warm it up a lot. So by agitation, heat, and time, the whey becomes expelled from the curd. The curds will shrink, and the whey will start to get more acidic. And what I do throughout the process is monitor the whey and the consistency of the curd. So I'll dip in. These are big. This is a very large curd. This was going to be made for a brie, like a camembert. So it's a high moisture cheese, very soft and very acidic. So what I want to try to do is get the whey pH and the consistency of the curd correct at the same time, so I can make the cheese that I'm trying to make. If you miss, you still end up with an edible cheese. It's just not what you wanted. So it gets an experimental tag put on it, and then we can sell it because it's good. It's just not what you're shooting for. Okay. This is the kettle where I am starting to agitate and stir the curds, cutting them up a little bit finer. My whole cheese room is only 12 feet by 19 feet. It's very small. So when the curds and the whey are correct, we can drain the whey out. We drain the whey through the valve on the bottom, and then the curds are molded in the specific types of mold, depending on what you're making. And then The final amounts of whey are expelled by pressing the curds. I don't know what's next. Okay. After the cheese is pressed overnight, you take the cheese out of the molds, trim them up, make them look kind of pretty, and then they get salted. They can either be salted with brine in a brine tank, soaked for anywhere from 1 hour, actually literally 1 hour to a day, to as long as 5 or 6 days, depending on the size of the wheel. So if I have a 30-pound chunk of Asiago, that'll be in the brine tank for about 5 days, 120 hours, something like that. A small 5-pound wheel of cheese may only be in the brine tank for 20 hours. And I make a cheese called halloumi. It's a Cypriot melting cheese, and that cheese is cut into small pieces, so they're only in there for maybe 45 minutes, whatever, like that. After they're brined or salted in some fashion, they got to go out into the cave to age. This is where they generally sit for minimum 3 months. 3 months, and I've had some that have gone 3 years. My partner, Tricia, she does all the affinage. They stay in this cave. The cave, theoretically, was supposed to stay at 50 degrees, being 8 feet underground, but it didn't. So we put in a refrigeration unit. So basically, all aging caves, no matter where they are, have some sort of a refrigeration, because you can't let them get over. I try to keep around 52 degrees, but in nature, this room was hitting low 60s, and that was just too warm. So we put in a low flow cooling system in it, and it's been running continuously for a long time. Let's see what else we have. Affinage, that's the art of aging the cheese. So my partner Tricia does all that now. I've gotten to the point where I just go pick up the milk, make the cheese, do all the invoicing, do all the this and that. So Trish enjoys affinage. That entails once or twice a week going into the cave, inspecting all the cheese, every single cheese, rotating them, flipping them. When the molds get too big, too much mold, they're brushed off. You're inspecting them for any flaws that are developing, and then you can address any issue that comes up. What you do when you flip them every week, because you want them to dry and age evenly. And if not, if there's still latent whey, it would just flow down if you didn't keep flipping them over. So that's once or twice a week for 3 months, 6 months, a year, or longer. Parmesans are aged for usually about 2 years in Italy, and that's a lot of flipping. One of my cheeses that we make is, I named it after my Uncle Johnny. It's called Johnny Valdez. It's an Alpine cheese, but it has espresso inside, and it's rubbed with espresso on the outside. So that's rubbing. We're trying to embed the coffee, the espresso, into the rind of the cheese as it ages. So time. That's what it takes, is time. This is some little experimental blues. They're about, I think they're only 4 inches in diameter. You notice the lines going down them. So if you ever buy blue cheese, you'll see lines. That's because the cheese wheels have to be pierced. Blue molds won't grow unless they get oxygen, air. To get the blue, we add a specific culture, Penicillium roqueforti. It's most likely has its origins in France. Add that to the milk, generally only about, maybe 5 mLs. We'll do a 35 or 50 gallon batch. But after a certain amount of aging, usually maybe 2-3 weeks, we pierce the cheeses with needles. And that lets the air get in and out of the cheese, and the blue will grow. So that's what you see right there. The other cheeses, you don't want any voids. Cheddars, Italian cheeses, Danish cheeses, you want the rinds to be nice, tight, because what we get in the cave, what we call is blue creep, because it's a natural, we got all the water and all the flora in there. Any crack or imperfection, blue molds are very, they just get everywhere, and they'll start working their way down into a cheese. It's kind of cool looking. It's considered a defect in the industry. It's a defect, but we just got to embrace it because it's going to happen. Some people like to eat it. Some people don't. One of the questions I get asked is, can you eat the rind? I says, virtually all the rinds are edible. It's just whether or not you like it, because in the cave you'll get a lot of mushrooms and fungal, earthy tastes. But I like most of them. I'll eat, except for we make a cheese called Flat Creek cheddar, and that is an English style cheese where it's coated with cloth with lard. And lard that's 8 months old is, you really don't want to eat it. Doesn't taste too good. Oh, this is the little label that we designed. It's since COVID, we vacuum pack most all of our cheese for sale. And just there's a label, and that cheese is our version of a raclette. If you've ever had a raclette, this Swiss melting cheese where they expose it to a burner and they scrape it off. This is one that we make. It's very good, I must say. And this is so every Saturday for the past long time. I think 13 years. I've been going to doing the markets. Originally, I started selling my glass at the market, tailgate markets, UNCA, City Market, and Black Mountain tailgate markets. That's where we sell most of our cheese. This was definitely pre-COVID, because back then we would cut and slice and wrap right at the market. Since COVID, we've had to go to vacuum bagging, labeled, and everything. But this is more like what you'd see in Italy now, where you could go to the open markets and they'll cut your pieces of slice your cheese, slice the cheese, don't cut the cheese. And so this is cool. What you see there's some fresh mozzarella. That's a gorgonzola off on the right rear. Camemberts in the front. And what am I? This was when I was making organic cheese. I had partnered with a dairyman that was doing organic cheese. And so that was kind of fun. And praise cheeses. That's a little logo that we designed for the business. And I have bumper stickers that say "honk if you love cheeses." And right now I'm in the process of building a food trailer, which is going to be selling cheese-centric food products. And it will be called, I'll tell you, Vito's Little Temple of Cheeses. So, anyway, that's